You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and this is my conversation with the very legendary Peter Tägtgren. He is touring Australia in May with his band Pain. I'll read out some dates quickly. On the 23rd of May, they're playing in Perth. The 24th, they're playing in Adelaide. The 25th, they're playing in Melbourne. The 26th, they are playing in Sydney. And finally, on the 27th, they are playing at the Zoo in Brisbane. Apologies that I don't actually have the days of the week that they're playing readily available, but I'm sure you can go online and find out very quickly yourselves. Anyway, let's have a listen to what Pete has to say. Heads up, we talk a lot about Celtic Frost, one of my favourite bands of all time, so it was really interesting to get Peter's insight on that, particularly because he had so much to do with their final album. Let's go. Peter, it's Andrew Mackay-Smith. Apologies for my tardiness by a few minutes there. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm not too bad. Yeah, the bloody phone card's playing up, so I've just decided to dial in myself from Skype. But all good, mate. All good. What's the day held for you so far?
Well, it's time soon to go to bed and then fly to Berlin tomorrow, but for some meetings. But I have six interviews, so that's no problem.
Yeah, all right. Well, I always ask this question, mate, because I'm always fascinated by the response. But how have the interviews with the Australian media, indie journalist types, been going for you? Because I know you did a couple of yesterday or thereabouts. You got a few coming up now.
Yeah, actually today. Yesterday, your day, but today. I started at 12 o'clock at noon, my time.
Oh, wow.
Did 7 or 8 of them, and now I'm going to do 6 more today. So it's all good.
All good.
It's for a good cause, So then it feels easy.
It is, mate, and it's a good cause that almost didn't happen because of what happened with Baldface Stag Productions or Promotions or whatever they're called, mate. But you got to be excited that you're finally coming back down here because I think you came down here with Hypocrisy once before, if I'm not mistaken.
No. I was actually here. When was that? 2015 with Lindemann doing promotions.
Lindemann, okay, gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So I never played in Australia. So
wow. Okay.
We're all very, very excited.
What have you heard about us then as an audience? What's the feedback been from some of your compatriots and people in other bands?
Well, they put you very high on the pedestal, so I expect nothing less.
Are you able to?
For sure. No.
Are you able to bring down a full show when you come to Australia, or is it something that's a bit more stripped down?
It's a little stripped down, but we're going full stage clothes and do our shit. And I don't even know what kind of places we're playing down there. So drums, of course, we can't fly with us, but everything else we bring with us.
Yeah,
but it all depends of the lights and everything. What's in the venue and so on. But we'll definitely do our best, and hopefully this will do good. I mean, it seems like it's been pretty good response, and so far we sent out some stuff on Facebook and only for Australia and stuff like that, and it seems like people are really pumped to see this stuff.
I think so. I mean, look, it must be said. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people at this point in time, almost 300 or thereabouts. A lot of people from your part of the world, actually, in Scandinavia there. But you're unique in that you've had such a long and productive and a fruitful association with heavy metal. I mean, I got into Hypocrisy way back in 1995 or thereabouts. And I even remember getting back into a band called The Abyss that you were in.
Yeah.
So to finally see you come down here, mate, it's quite a thrill for a lot of people just to see you up on stage because you're one of those blokes, as I say, has had such a long and fruitful association with heavy metal. But do you get a lot of feedback from people when you're playing in, whether it's with Lindemann, Pain, Hypocrisy, even The Abyss back in the day, that you've had a significant impact on them because of your production, the way that you've approached your production with bands like Immortal and Celtic Frost? We'll talk about that in a moment, but Jesus, you're one of those guys that is part of Celtic Frost's overwhelming legacy.
Yeah, I was really happy to be a part of that one because I grew up on Celtic Frost and Hellhammer, in 82, 83, 84. I can't remember exactly when, but somewhere around there, when I was growing up, so it was great to to actually produce an album with them, in later years. The same with Destruction. It was really funny to have them in my studio. It's something that I was brought up on and formed as a metal fan, and also as a writer. All these bands that came in the 80s, they are very influences on the way I write, even if I don't play the same kind of music, but in there somewhere it rubbed off on me, so and then to be able to sit and produce these bands, it's dream come true,
Look, there was an album that Monotheist was an album that I think confused a lot of people when it first came out because the tuning was so low. But then once you got past that, you realised it was an album that really carried on from, I don't know, would you say it carried on from Into the Pandemonium? It's sort of hard to say that because there'd been such a long gap, but it's an album.
Yeah, I mean, it's so deep, that album. It has so many different kind of point of views in musical directions. It's almost like a theater piece, kind of. It's got so many different elements in it. It's more than just a metal album. It has so many weird stuff in there, and it's a journey. To listen to that album, it's something else, that's for sure.
So when
it was hard fucking work to do. It was really hard work. We were all about to explode, when we were working on it, because all of us knew that this is a comeback album. It's very important. They can't fuck up anything, because then it's over before it's started again. So we're all on real pressure. We pressured ourselves, we pressured each other to reach the best we could do at the moment. And of course, it's been many fucking years between the last album and this one, and people change. Over 20 years, you don't think the same anymore. You maybe don't write the same way anymore. And there's a lot of things you have to go back to try to find these roots where they come from,
And what was having a mental blank? I know his name isn't Stephen Priestley, but who was the drummer from the To Megatherion and Into the Pandemonium era that they were talking about bringing back in, but it didn't quite work out musically. What was his name? He's the most important drummer.
Yeah, the American guy.
Reed St. Mark. Is it Reed St. Mark?
Yeah, I think so. But anyhow, they said he kind of lost it. I mean, not mentally, but he didn't have what it required to do it. That's what I heard. So they took in another guy that lived around their area, in Switzerland, instead of flying people back and forth over the Atlantic. So, and they've been jamming together, and they've been working for a long time on these demos that they did, and then they called me up and said if I could come over for a meeting there, and we listened to some stuff, and they wanted to know me, how I was thinking about things and my point of view of everything. I got a really job interview, which was pleasant. They flew me down there and everything was nice. I was very nervous, to meet some of my heroes, from the past, so it was, in the end, I thought it was definitely the best thing they could come up with, I mean, it has so many, like I said, so many different paths in the songs, it's really, it's a fucking adventure to listen to the album, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of those albums, and your production really enhances the grittiness of the songwriting that they're using. I think if they'd brought in somebody else who'd made it, when I say too polished, I think the way that your production style really brings out the meanness of a guitar sound. So whatever a guitarist is trying to achieve, your production type really enhances that. Whether it be...
I really try to not change it. I mean, that was the first thing that I said to myself, like, do not change the guitar sound, whatever I do, because they have a unique sound on the earlier albums, what made Celtic Frost somehow. Yeah. And so I really took care of that a lot. But of course, they tuned down a lot, so that changed the sound a little bit, but it's still the same character. You can hear right away on the first song, like, whoa, this is Celtic Frost.
Yeah, gotcha. Hey, let's. You cool if we talk about Hypocrisy? Gosh, I know we're here to talk about Pain and the tour that you're coming down here, but
Yeah.
it's such a wonderful opportunity to finally chat to you, and I've got so many questions about your wonderful career, not just as a producer but also as a musician. So, probably my favourite album of yours, and this might surprise you because I don't know whether you get feedback on this album, but it's a self-titled album from 1999. I think
Yeah.
that's an album that set the scene for a lot of metal in the years to come afterwards. But what's the when it comes to Hypocrisy, what's the album that you get the most feedback on as being the most impactful album to a lot of fans?
Oh, I don't know. It's so different, you know. It depends which fan you're talking to. Some people only like the three first albums.
Oh yeah,
Other people just like the in the area of Abducted, final chapter and the self-titled album. Some other people like the Virus era and the later ones, you know. So it all depends. It's all really mixed up, you know. I really don't know myself what the hell are we going to write for the next album to make everybody happy, you know. That's impossible. So we're just going to follow our hearts and just write. I have like five songs almost done, you know, and I don't know what they sound like. I mean, it's nothing new, and we don't want to do anything new. We want to be like AC/DC, you know. When you get an AC/DC album, you expect it to sound like AC/DC, you know. So I think that's what we're going to do with the Hypocrisy as well, you know.
it's interesting
And
with
keep it.
well, it's something that's really interesting, and you might not know this, but I mean, you probably do, but. It was the last album, End of Disclosure, was number 12 on the US Heatseekers charts. I mean, that's a bloody big accomplishment. I mean, I know that physical copy and streaming doesn't shift the way it used to and appear on charts the way it used to, and it's skewed things. But, mate, to get almost near the top 10 in the kind of uncompromisingly metal band that Hypocrisy is, and with your outlook, mate, you got to be proud of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's still interest, you know, even though it's been 20 million years since we first started, you know. No, but 21 to 26 years or whatever, you know. So, I mean, to try to stay, you know, on the same level is pretty amazing, you know, because I see a lot of bands that's from the same era, you know, they're still not doing so good today, you know. When we started with all the other bands, you know, so a lot of bands have falling out, and it's only a handful left, you know, that still sticks to the music that they did, you know, and still make it good. So we very fortunate to have the fan base, I think.
Well, I think the thing with you, above and beyond a lot of people out there, is that you seem very enthusiastic. Like, just talking to you, you actually also had a number of discussions with Shamir from Destruction in the last 6 months or so. You remind me of him the way you're talking. You seem very enthusiastic about what you're doing. So what inspires you, and what has kept you grounded, if you like, to the point where you're committed to this life of heavy metal?
Just stay true to yourself and always try to do better. It's never good enough, you know. That's probably the only thing that really drives me, you know, to make better and better albums or better songs or whatever it's called, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's just to improve all the time, you know.
Improving all the time, yeah. So have you got any bands that you'd like to work with on the horizon? Like, is an Opeth or a band like that someone that you'd like to collaborate with in the future?
I don't know. I mean, of course, like all the other producers, you know, you always want to do bigger and bigger. You know, it's a kick, you know, of course, you know, but it's also good to do like underground stuff that really where you're from and what you are brought up on, you know. So I mean, I'm pretty open to do different things all the time, you know.
Yeah,
so there's nothing like, oh, I want to do the next Metallica album or whatever, things like that. It's not really in my mind, you know.
Yeah. Well, I was just about to make that point. Now, maybe not Metallica because they're in another dimension. You know, they're almost aliens these days, those guys, in terms of the stratospheric heights that they've achieved. But a band...
their sounds, it just get worse and worse for every album.
No, I agree. You know? I've done something approaching not a hype. I've done like a massive blog entry where I talk about the change from post, you know, that Loader series of albums up to now, and all of the personal issues that they've had in between it, very publicised, and that bloody awful video that they released, some kind of monster, and it just reads like a reality TV show with Jerry Springer hosting it. A lot of the stuff that they decided to air, but no, I don't disagree with you on that one. They're a very challenging and very complex band in 2018, and their first three albums.
It rubs off on the poor person who has to mix it. I guess he has no choices. They tell him what to do, and there's no free mind there, to mix it. And I don't know, for me, it still sounds like bad demos, if you compare it to before Load and Reload. Even the garage tapes sounds better, the last one.
Yeah.
Than the newer productions. I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, they could have such killer sound, if they wanted.
Well, they're not that good a live band anymore, I must say. I don't know whether they've lost it. I mean, these guys, both Robert Trujillo, who's a tremendous musician, and Kirk Hammett, when they were in Denmark, did a cover of Aha's Take Me On. Did you see that on Twitter or YouTube?
No, I didn't want to see it.
It wasn't pretty.
So someone posted it, and I didn't even want to see it.
It wasn't pretty. It was actually... I mean, I'm a covers musician, so that's what I do. That's the work that I do. Is I cover bands, and I play 4-hour sets most weekends. And mate, their version of it, I don't even know why they did it, because it was Robert's singing's out of tune, and Kirk can't really. I've known this for a while though, and I've noticed it. Kirk has a bit of trouble on the guitar these days. I think it's fair to say he misses notes, so you hear those bum notes coming through. Anyway, sorry,
really?
I digress. Okay, final question.
But still, hey, they're laughing all the way to the bank anyhow, so it doesn't matter.
And that's probably very important to them, it must be said. I suppose, well, look, if you release those first three albums, more power to you, I suppose. Go and, release all these weird albums like Lulu and just about everything they've done since, 1994 and 1995.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I kind of lost the interest after Justice for All. I mean, the Black Album is a classic album. It's more rock and roll. More commercialized. It's good songs. Everything is really good. But then after he got a little bit too bluesy for me. The guitar sound is not there anymore. It sounds like old tired men playing guitars.
Yeah, it sounds like they've been listening to too much Bob Seger and bloody Kenny Rogers and on the tour bus, and it's somehow infected their sound. And I think with the cover of what was the Bob Seger song they did on Garage Inc? I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, Turn the Page.
Turn the Page. That spoke volumes to me as a musician where their heads were at. That they'd cover something like that.
But we all grew up. I mean, I listened to a lot of Johnny Cash, and I listened to a lot of hillbilly country music and stuff like that. But I still haven't done a country song.
Yeah, please don't.
I try to keep that for my own taste.
Country and urban music are the two things I can't get into. It's just very hard to get into them. Mate, I'd better let you go because I know you got a few more coming up. But final point, mate, I've recorded this obviously because I write for online articles. But it's been a wonderful chat. And do you mind if I release it as a podcast episode of my podcast series?
Sure. Yeah, no problem at all.
Thank you, brother. I don't know whether we'll get a chance to catch up, but thank you so much for doing what you've been doing, and I'll be in the audience when you come to Australia at least.
Oh, great. Yeah, look me up. Have a couple of beers or so.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, mate. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in a few weeks.
Fantastic, mate. Okay, all the best. Thank you.
Okay, have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that was my conversation with Peter Tägtgren from the band Pain. Thank you so much for listening.